one of the stories I had to cover, and I did, even though I really didn't want to, was Russiagate. I didn't want to talk about it. It dominated U.S. politics for years, and so I was put in a position where I had to talk about it. And of course, when you went through the specifics of the stories that were put out there, they were mostly bullshit. Every time I dig into one of the stories, it turns out to just be totally not true or something totally twisted and misleading. And so the narrative of like Donald Trump as Putin's puppet was ridiculous. The policies he was doing were actively hostile to Russia. So what are you doing here? What's the narrative you're creating? And the fact of the matter is, the Democrats, in an attempt to own Trump and take down Trump, pivoted to the right on this issue in terms of foreign policy. And so they started up a new Cold War and made Russia this giant adversary, and were resisting from the right and were being more hawkish and calling for more sanctions. And it was all just for political, partisan, tribal reasons to try to own Trump. And there are terrible consequences associated with that, and everything we warned that would happen, happened. And so now, one of the central pieces of Russiagate has crumbled. The story's fallen apart. Take a look at this. This is in the Daily Beast, but a variety of outlets are reporting this. It was a huge election time story that prompted cries of treason, but according to a newly disclosed assessment, Donald Trump might have been right to call it a hoax. It was a blockbuster story about Russia's return to the imperial great game in Afghanistan. The Kremlin had spread money around the longtime Central Asian battlefield for militants to kill remaining U.S. forces. It sparked a massive outcry from Democrats and their resistance amplifiers about the treasonous Russian puppet in the White House, whose admiration for Vladimir Putin had endangered American troops. But on Thursday, the Biden administration announced that U.S. intelligence only had low to moderate confidence in the story after all. Translated from the jargon of spyworld, that means that the intelligence agencies have found the story is, at best, unproven and possibly untrue. The intelligence agencies have lied to us about everything. They're the ones who lied us into the war in Iraq, an illegal and offensive war that killed minimum 200,000 innocent civilians and killed thousands of our own soldiers and destroyed a country, wasted so much money, time, effort. It was a massive, corrupt military-industrial complex scam in many ways. Had a lot to do with the oil. In Afghanistan, it has to do with the trillions in mineral wealth and the opium. They lie all the time. But somehow, Democrats shut their brains off when it came to them saying, oh, Trump is Putin's puppet, and the Russian soldiers, Russia's government is putting a bounty on U.S. soldiers' heads. And this was such a pervasive thing, I want to show you what mainstream media was saying.
In our Worldly Today, President Trump dismissing the Russian bounty intelligence story as a hoax meant to damage him and Republicans. The president often touts his relationship with his Russian counterpart, Vladimir Putin.
The White House also responding tonight to a bombshell report accusing Russia of offering bounties to the Taliban to kill American soldiers in Afghanistan.
And now you know, from this reporting in the New York Times, which has since been confirmed by the Wall Street Journal, that not only does the president know that Russia was paying for American soldiers' deaths.
News. Get this. The Washington Post is now reporting that the alleged Russian bounties to Taliban fighters in Afghanistan are believed to have resulted in the deaths of U.S. troops.
Like this New York Times story about a stunning U.S. intel assessment, finding that Russia secretly offered Afghan militants bounties to kill U.S. troops.
So comes under fire over those bombshell reports that the White House was told Russia was paying bounties to kill U.S. troops in Afghanistan.
The most important application of that question is, what did the president know about Vladimir Putin offering a bounty for the killing of American soldiers in Afghanistan, and when did he know it?
A senior Afghan official confirmed to CBS News that the reports were not only true, but the Russian government achieved some success with their plans.
Barry Cayley, I cannot tell a lie, McEnany, insists the president does in fact read everything he needs to read. We need to look at the real threat to U.S. troops and the risk that Russia was putting a bounty on their heads.
That Americans found out this weekend that Vladimir Putin is paying to put bounties on the heads of American troops.
Telling CNN that the White House was warned about Russia offering bounties actual bounties to kill U.S. troops in Afghanistan.
He's not even there yet. He's still suggesting that the reporting about the fact that there were these bounties offered is fake. Meanwhile, your organization, the New York Times and others, are getting some fairly detailed reporting about how it actually works.
Despite those denials over and over, sources tell CNN that last week the U.S. even shared that intelligence with British officials, as some of the British troops would have been targeted as well.
Yeah, to say nothing of putting bounties on American troops.
It's unbelievable, Joy.
Yeah.
Public reporting that Russia had bounties on the heads of American soldiers. And you know what a bounty is? It's somebody puts a price on your head and they will pay it if you are killed.
Credit to the Biden administration for the rare instance of complete honesty. And I think sometimes you get that from Joe. Every now and then he's too honest and he says the thing out loud that other more Weasley politicians would be quiet about. But he was like, yeah, we saw the intelligence. There's low to moderate confidence. Guys, just so you understand, even when they say high confidence, that means we have no evidence. Because if there was evidence, they just show the evidence. They don't show the evidence because they don't have it. So even when the intelligence agencies say we have high confidence of X, Y, or Z, they are lying. Never mind low to moderate confidence. I mean, it's totally made up, utterly made up, completely made up. Now, here's my question for you guys. This was a conspiracy theory at the behest of the establishment that ramped up tensions with another nuclear-armed power. Pushed us towards war with another nuclear-armed power. Because the argument was they're effectively paying to have our soldiers killed. That's an act of war, is it not? So then it would be self-defense if we attack back or if we put troops right on their border or if we, in Ukraine, for example, I mean, we've already armed Ukrainian rebels who are aligned with neo-Nazis, but if we did that more and said, we're going to put bounties on your soldiers or whatever the fuck, do you see the bad path this can go down? You're on a permanent war footing with another nuclear-armed power and you're lying and doing propaganda to try to increase tensions and get us closer to war. So this was a total conspiracy theory. This is complete misinformation. So my question for the cable providers, for YouTube, for all these outlets that now love to censor and deplatform is, are there going to be consequences? Are the cable providers going to be pressured to drop CNN and MSNBC and these mainstream media outlets in the same way that they've been pressured to drop One American News Network and Newsmax? Because those outlets are totally full of shit, and they lied with conspiracy theories like Stop the Steal nonstop. There was pressure, pull them down. Is there going to be pressure to take down CNN? Hey, CNN, I'm sorry, they shouldn't have a voice in the discourse anymore because they're lying and they're doing war propaganda and they're doing conspiracy theories, and that's dangerous. And in this case, it really is dangerous because they're ramping up for war. Are there going to be any consequences? Is YouTube going to pull down the videos from CNN and MSNBC that push this conspiracy theory? I mean, they took down Jordan Chariton's videos from the January 6th attempted insurrection because he spoke to some of the people that were there and asked them, why are they there? And then they said, oh, it's a stolen election, fraudulent election, and I'm protesting that. And they would push back on it. Jordan Chariton's outlet would push back on it. And YouTube pulled down that video and said, we have to take it down for misinformation because they're pushing the conspiracy theory that the election was fraudulent. They weren't pushing that conspiracy theory at all. But even if they were, we're supposed to have free exchange of ideas, even insane ones, even bullshit ones, because there is no such thing as a ministry of truth that's objective, that will only keep up the right stuff. But here we have an actual conspiracy theory, complete misinformation and disinformation that ramps up towards lies. There will be no consequences. No video is going to get pulled down. By the way, they're not even going to get docked on the algorithm. By the way, that's step one. So we've been victim of step one for a long time, just so you know. YouTube admitted a few years ago in their own newsletter, their own press release, they said, oh, we're going to crack down on borderline content and pump out authoritative content. You know what that means? That means secular talk videos don't reach new audiences. So subscriber growth has crawled to nearly a halt, a complete standstill. We used to gain 30,000 subs, 40,000 subs a month. Now we gain 1,000 or 2,000. Not because I'm doing such a bad job or the topics I'm covering aren't as interesting or anything like that. No, the algorithm docks us and tries to not show us to new people, whereas CNN and MSNBC and Fox News, their stuff is pumped out to new people all the time. And this is the shit they were talking about. Complete Cold War bullshit, lies, misinformation, disinformation, conspiracy theory that ramps us up to war with another nuclear armed power, and there will be no consequences because they lied on behalf of the establishment and people with power. And that's why you should oppose censorship, and that's why you should oppose deplatforming, because they will always come after people who question power and question authority, like us. They'll never go after people who push the line of the powerful. And that's what they did. This was lying on behalf of the establishment, lying on behalf of the military-industrial complex and the deep state and the intelligence agencies. So they're going to totally get away with it. But now you know. It was all a lie. The thing that got me was when the Mueller report came out, because all the Russiagate people were convinced that Trump was going to be dragged out of the White House in handcuffs. They brought in Mueller. Everybody had nothing but positive things to say about Mueller. He's going to do a thorough investigation. He's going to make sure to get to the bottom of this. And they're going to find the collusion. They're going to find that Trump is Putin's puppet, and they're going to take him out of the Oval Office in handcuffs. So many people believe that. Then they did the report, spent millions of dollars, took a tremendous amount of time, and they came back and said, oh, what we found is, we found run-of-the-mill corruption. Of course you're gonna. Trump's massively corrupt. His people are massively corrupt. Duh. Take him down for that. We found corruption, and we found a lot of shady con men characters around him, but we found nothing about him being a puppet of Russia. We found nothing on that front. And what happened? All those people instantly turned on Mueller, because it's a cult. It's a religion. They believe it despite the evidence. So that's what happened. But when people continue to push Russiagate after Mueller was like, I didn't really get anything on it, that's when I was like, oh, we are so fucked. We're so fucked. Because if they're still defending it after the whole thing that was supposed to bring him down didn't bring him down, well, then where are we going to go? It's already been disproven. It's already been debunked. Now you get even more specifics about how it's debunked. This reminds me of the story where they said Paul Manafort met with Julian Assange, which was a total lie. And so many mainstream media outlets ran with it. They would have had video evidence, and they didn't because it didn't happen. So many mainstream media outlets ran with it. The whole thing was a lie, and it's even more of a lie than you thought. That's the main takeaway here. And there's going to be no consequences for any of them because they lied for the team with all the power. But instead, outlets like mine calling them out will continue to get screwed, will continue to get deranked in the algorithm. At some point, it'll probably get worse, and they'll ramp up to more censorship and deplatforming, and round we go. So, if you're not pissed off, you're not paying attention, because this stuff is egregious.